Okay, so we're recording. So today I am joined by Dr. Dingle. He's spent the past 25 years as a researcher, educator, author, and public health advocate for common sense. He is one of Australia's leading motivational health speakers. He was an associate professor in health and the environment for 25 years before being rewired, and runs corporate health and wellbeing programs and public speaking around Australia. He currently has over 10 books in print, with the latest ones, The Great Cholesterol Deception, Take Control and Realize Your Potential, and A Supplement a Day Keeps the Doctor Away, as well as his new book, Dangerous Beauty, which is being released in 4 weeks' time. Welcome to the show, Dr. Dingle.
Thank you, Helen. It's great to be here, and thank you all your watchers and listeners for channeling in here. I hope, in fact, I know I'll be able to give you some really good information.
Awesome.
So where would you like to start today, Helen? I think I've got about 100 hours non-stop blurbs to start with.
All right. I want to find out about you. And in your bio, you tell us that you were rewired. What does that mean?
Well, look, I suppose my rewiring literally was a journey that I took through my teaching days, because as a normal everyday academic, you go out there and you learn your stuff at university, then you go out and you start teaching it, right? And then I was fortunate, I went on to do my PhD, and my PhD, which is a doctorate, so I'm a real doctor because I have a doctorate, it raised questions, and it raised questions about chemicals in the home, and the fact that we're exposing ourselves every day to chemicals. My PhD was on formaldehyde and other volatile chemicals, and it raised questions about these chemicals that we're being exposed to every day, and virtually nothing was being done about it. The more I looked into it, the more I realized there's this huge gap of information. And I suppose then I got into my teaching, and as I was teaching, one of the first things I would ask my students to do is to not believe me. Don't believe me. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to get excited about it and go home and prove me wrong. And if you can't prove me wrong, then go out and teach it. And I would have my students in every single unit, but particularly my final year, my fourth year university students coming and presenting on topics like reversing multiple sclerosis and reversing or the cholesterol deception, or salt wasn't bad for you, or margarine was bad for you. And I had dozens and dozens of these topics. And each time the students presented a topic, the other students, and remember these are third and fourth university students and they've all been taught to research, had to go out and disprove them. So the students had to get it pretty right, otherwise they're going to be embarrassing. So they presented it, and the other students came back the following week on virtually all of these topics and many more that I talked about. You know, the myth about calcium, the myth about milk, the myth about just so many topics out there that they presented them, the students assessed them, and they came back and said, hold on, this is true. What you presented is true, but we're getting educated by the Heart Foundation, by the government. We're getting educated by the drug companies, the doctors. We're getting educated by all these people and reputable groups out there, and it's wrong. And it's wrong. So they started me on the journey. And, of course, what it meant was when I left uni, which was 6 years ago now, I've been able to spend a lot more time going and delving even deeper into it. But moving away from that traditional academic role of, write the paper, submit the paper, do the paper, and get it out into the public. I'm passionate. I'm sure you can tell that, and you know me already there. And I'm passionate about getting this information to the public. You see, I don't have a vested interest. I don't sell salt. I don't sell butter. I don't sell margarine. You know, I don't sell all of these products out there. I don't sell sunscreens that are causing cancer. You know, I don't sell these things. So people look and say, well, they're trying to find this person who has I suppose, doesn't have a vested interest. Someone who is able to actually put the science together. And when I do that, I try to get it out to the public. So I do a lot of public talks. I write them into my books, Again, I've got a book called Medical Myths and Health Lies That Are Killing Us. And it's got about 30 chapters just on the stupid things that we believe in, that we've been brainwashed to believe in simply because there's a commercial interest. The dairy industry, The dairy industry is huge. The grain industry in Australia, the meat industry in Australia, it's all huge. And so you see even the major organisations in Australia, CSIRO, the universities who teach nutrition are still promoting a lot of this food that I have no doubt is killing us.
Mm.
And so my rewiring is taking it from what I knew. My students had initiated me on the path to get out there and do it differently. So I'm fortunate in that I do a lot of public speaking. I do about 80 talks a year.
Wow.
And there's about a dozen or so conferences. And the great thing about the conferences is I get to some of the leaders. And, I might be speaking to a corporate group. It might be accountants associations, or it might be real estate agents. But there are people out there who have other networks. And when I present it, they go, wow, this is different to what we're being told by those other speakers. This is different. Hold on. But it sounds true, because I don't just say it. I back it up. I show the evidence. I identify where the evidence is. And in my books, and that's one of the reasons I write my books. And by the way, there are 15 now.
Oh, wow. You need to update your bio.
And another one. Look, I'm one of the good things about leaving university, I've actually got more time to do research. Much more time to do research. So every day, I literally get into the research. First thing I do, and this is usually about 6 o'clock in the morning. It's winter, so I get up a bit later. 6 o'clock in the morning, I hop on, do some research, start to write it into one of the books that I'm writing. And then probably, by the way, after an hour and a half, I head back to bed to get warm and have a cup of tea. So I've got
I like that.
Pretty good lifestyle. I practice what I preach. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
well, I did want to delve into that. Actually, I wanted to ask you what a Dr. Dingle day looks like, and you've already started us off. So maybe it might be a good time to tell us about that. So you get out of bed nice and early. At 6 o'clock. That's a lie-in for you, is it right? In winter?
Yep. Look, I get out. I get a bit. It's a bit chilly in the room at the moment. I'm in Fremantle. Great weather, by the way, at the moment, but still a bit chilly in the morning. And then I'll head back to bed to warm up and put the have a cup of tea with my wife Martine, who's a naturopath. And one of the first things I say to her is, Martine, guess what I found today? Guess what I found? I found and then she goes, oh yeah, another one. And so, I found this amazing study last week. It's not published. It's not officially published till, I think it's the 17th of September, but it's a pre-publication that they do online. And it actually showed that some of the chemicals that we find in cosmetics and personal care products, a group called parabens, the levels that the mothers had when they were just before they gave birth in their urine, and the levels in the children at 3 years of age were both correlated with thyroid problems in 3-year-old girls.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. It's scary, isn't it? This is what
terrifying.
Scares me.
I thought you were going to say there was that it's going to cause thyroid problems for the mothers, because that's what we hear all the time, right? Underactive thyroid, Hashimoto's, thyroid, it all seems to come to that. But you're telling me this is causing problems in children.
This is where these problems come from. It's not because, you get the Hashimoto's, you get the thyroid, and about 30% of hypothyroidism, in women. This is subclinical hypothyroidism. You've got about 8 or 10% that are diagnosed, and you've got another 30% of women who are running around with low energy, a bit tired, and a bit pain. And just things aren't working, focus, concentration, memory, all of those things are playing havoc. And we can put it down to lots of excuses, but one of those real reasons is the chemicals we're exposed to. And so this study highlighted that it starts in utero, it starts at 3, it starts at 4, and there are studies dating all the way back, and there's no one else out there doing the research doing it. The researchers, in the US and Europe are doing it, and they go, wow, look at this. This is amazing. But then nobody reads the journals. And if they do read the journals, they don't then get it out to the public. So, that's a classic example. Now, going back to the original thing, what do I do? Well, after getting excited and telling Martine about it, she'll talk about her experiences with with women, some of her clients with hyperthyroidism or even high thyroid activity, which I seem to be coming across more recently. I haven't looked into that one, but so we discuss that over a cup of tea or 2 or even 3, and it's a green tea first thing in the morning, cup of green tea, then it's kind of get up and get into the day, and I'll usually start a little bit more research, get back on the computer, start doing some of the admin stuff that always comes along, but I don't have too much, fortunately. Contact people, line up a few more talks, do all those other bits of admin things in the morning. I typically then go have my breakfast, which is a green smoothie or a veggie smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, I'm doing every second one of those almost live on my Facebook page.
Cool.
I did one this morning. Don't tell anyone else. I cheated on this one. Martine cut it all up for me.
Oh, well, why not?
She prepped it. She prepped it for me, and she prepped it ready to do it. And I thought, hold on, I'll do this live. So I took it out of the container, put it back on there, and then went out and I made the smoothie in front of people. And I talked about the benefits of the green smoothies or the veggie smoothies, and I talked about some of the ingredients that I love, linseed, for example, particularly for women's issues and so on. And I also highlighted it's about $4 a kilo, and I don't own shares in the flax or linseed business. So that's typically something I do. I'd probably then go and soon after also have a green drink. I drink a green tea. It's a bit of a mixture of chlorella, spirulina, the green drinks with some other nutrients in there, because I really do believe that we are plant-based eaters. Now, I'm not vegetarian or vegan. Understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a way to, there's a way to eat the meat, and it's different from the way we do it, the way that most people do it. But I'm a big advocate for having a lot more veggies and a lot more fruit and nuts and beans and all those other bits and pieces, all the veggies in our program. So that'd be fairly typical. I'd go and have lunch, depending on when it is. Summer, I'd have a veggie and salad wrap.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the rye, thin rye. I don't know what the brand is. I want to promote it because it doesn't have vegetable oils in it.
Right.
If you check most of the wraps, they've got vegetable oil, and vegetable oil, omega-6, canola oil, not linseed, but sunflower oil, and all those. They're a no-no. They're a no-no. We get about 20 times too much in our diet. It's in everything. They're in everything. So I get the wraps without the oil put in. They're a bit thinner. I wrap up my salads and so on. And that's what I'd have for lunch. I'd typically then have a cup of tea. Now here I am. I would have my typical English breakfast, well brewed in a pot.
Yeah, nice.
None of this tea bag stuff.
No.
I resort to tea bags when I'm traveling, but it's my cup of tea in a pot, and the pot looks exactly like what my mum used to have. 50 years ago. So that's why there's an emotional. It's nice. I should have bought it in, no matter. My teapot, it's got a little tea cozy on that my mother-in-law bought me. So there's a lot of attachment to making tea. So I'd have some snacks during the day, and we might have some protein, chocolate, coconut protein balls, or I might even have some of the leftovers from dinner last night and so on, because sometimes we've got the big family at home and sometimes we don't, so there's leftovers. And then dinner we'd have a cooked meal. We'd nearly always have some salad with it though. First of all, salad. And I run a lot of weight loss courses. I run whole programs and stuff on weight loss. And one of the first things I tell people, it's more raw, more veggies, more salad. And before you eat, have the salad. Don't leave it to after you've eaten everything. Have the salad. It helps you lose weight a lot faster. It also fills you up better, and it preps you.
So how does that work in the body? Is it because your stomach's empty and then you can digest? I would just imagine that it would be easy to digest that salad, if that went into your stomach first, as opposed to like meat on top of meat or whatever. Is that why it's just easier to digest the salad at the beginning of the meal, or?
Partly. One of the things about raw is that every food comes with its own enzymes to break itself down. Okay. So if I pick meat, got a little enzyme in it called cathepsin, okay? But I don't eat raw meat. Now, where are the other alternatives? If I eat my salad, my veggies raw, carrots and things, and I have my other fruit raw, it's got everything in there to digest, and it goes down to the top of my stomach, which is called the fundus. And because it's already got the enzymes, as long as I chewed it enough, it's released the enzymes and they start the digestive process. And it's going, whoa, my body's going, wow, Pete, I'm getting all this energy and digestion already without having to put in all your all your digestive enzymes, the hydrochloric acid, because your body doesn't want to, digesting is an exhausting process. It's really quite tiring. Hence, when you've had a big meal, you lay down on the couch, Christmas, for example, and you lay down on the couch and you go to sleep. And that's what most of us feel like after a big meal. When you have a raw one, you don't, because you don't have to waste those important digestive enzymes that in the stomach, the protease and the ones that break down the protein and so on, all of your digestive juices in the stomach. And then when it gets into the small intestine, the other digestive enzymes in the food also kick in. So again, you're saving energy. But there's another really important aspect. There's lots of them, but there's another really important aspect about having raw. And that is, we now know that the food and the byproducts of the food broken down by our microorganisms and our microorganisms talk directly to our genes. I'll give you one classic example. On the way down to your gut, there's something like 26 different receptors for different types of food. So by the time it gets down into your stomach, it says, oh, I know what we're eating. Oh, we're eating this, and there are enzymes there. And look, I'm making this up because we really don't know what it's telling us, but I'm imagining. And one of the things it says, is, oh, I've got some nice raw food coming down, and that talks straight to the genes, and it says, I'm full. Don't send any more. So as soon as you have raw food, and a classic example I try to get across to people is if you have an apple, most people will have one apple. If you're really, really hungry, 4 o'clock afternoon, starving, you'll have an apple, maybe 2, but you won't get on to 3.
No way.
However, if I cook the apple with a little bit of sugar, 12 of them, a dozen apples.
Stewed apple, delicious. Yeah. That's really
stewed apples, absolutely. Put a bit of pastry on top, cream. I got my apple pie with a dozen apples in. And you can actually sit down and eat it. 12 apples. Yeah. And the difference is it doesn't send any messages to your genes. And then your genes don't send the other messages around your body that you're full. So it says, oh, keep eating. I can't detect any food because our food is raw. Our food should be raw. And because remember, we've got a couple of 100,000 years of paleo, but prior to that, we were pre-paleo. How many millions of years have we been great apes? And it was primarily raw food. And that raw food sends a message, and you will see all other animals eat slowly and they eat it, and because they don't get the same. When you have cooked food, you can just gulp it down. You can have as much as you want. So raw food sends a really important message. So on our programs, we actually, weight loss or eat your way to health. It doesn't matter which program I'm running. It's the same. We tell people, have the raw foods. Now, if you want the cooked foods, that's fine. In winter, nothing better than a good hot curry. I love it, And what's good about that is when you eat the meat, it's been cooked down. So if you meat it, you have to have your meat, you have to have your chicken and fish and stuff. Have it in the stews. Well, not so much fish, but have it in the stews. Have it in the soups. Have it in Yeah. So it's all broken down. And you cook the bones, first of all. And you cook the bones because that's where the real nutrition is. If you can, you cook some of the organs in there too. I know some people don't like that idea. But so organ meat, which is a really rich one. By the way, when a dog or when a predator would kill an animal in a hunt, the first thing it would do was rip open its stomach.
Yes, and they eat the organs first, don't they?
And they eat all the organs. Now, not only are they the richest source of most of the nutrients, but the intestines are an incredibly rich source of probiotics.
Wow.
So all animals, hey, I'm on a probiotic kick at the moment. I'll tell you, I've been researching this for 2 years, and again, it's coming out in publications later this year. But I can tell you, all animals get their probiotics. It's the first thing they do. The last thing they eat is the steak. They eat the soft organs, they eat the guts, and all those guts, you're getting all of the nutrients and all the in fact, they're getting fiber too, and they're getting the probiotics and the prebiotics. It's brilliant. And then we have the exact opposite. So my message is, if you're going to have your meat, you cook it, you slow cook it, you long cook it until it's falling apart. In fact, when and my wife does most of the cooking. I do most of the cleaning. No, that's not true. I won't try and tell myself here. But when she cooks it, and we had just had some chicken and corn and veggie soup, and literally at the end I was eating the bones, the whole bones, the little bones in there had all broken down.
Wow.
First of all, it was free range organic, but second of all, by the time it was cooked down, all those bones were just falling apart, and I chewed them, and there was no throwing out, and there were no leftovers. There were no leftovers, and that's what we need to be able to do, get those bones too. So that's a fairly typical. I have a lot of curry meals. My preference is vegetarian, but if there's meat, I don't shy away from it. Mm-hmm. That's the typical kind of food I would eat, and probably, by the way, after that I would have a piece or two of dark chocolate. Mm-hmm. So that's my treat for the end of the day. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this one. I would probably have a glass of wine
every day,
but that was before the meal. Now, you haven't heard this anywhere else? I'll tell you the benefits of a glass of wine. Yeah. Now, there's a lot of myths out there. Okay, they talk about resveratrol, which is an antioxidant in red wine. And by the way, I'm probably going to do this as a video blog tonight, a little bit more on this topic. But at 5 o'clock, when I got my glass of wine, I'll turn around and do it. So resveratrol, a red wine, there's a whole raft of antioxidants in red wine, and they're really good, but the doses are so low, it's not going to really benefit. It's going to have a very mild benefit. In fact, you have to have 300 glasses of red wine to get a daily dose of resveratrol. So that's a hell of a lot of wine. Yeah. And the problem is wine has another ingredient in it called alcohol.
Oh, yes.
And alcohol is poisonous.
Yeah.
Yes. And the problem with that is, obviously if you drink too much. Now, with men and women, there are different processes. Women, unfortunately, it also stimulates estrogen. So in weight gain, alcohol is great for women for putting on weight. So if you want to lose weight, you've got to stay away from the alcohol. However, there are a couple of little benefits of red wine, and it's only for a glass or a glass and a half. And that is, one, it's full of something called acetic acid. And acetic acid is what you've got in vinegar. Mm-hmm. And of course, vinegar and acetic acid has huge gut benefits. I won't go into the details, but it poisons the bad ones, things like your nasty staphylococcus bacteria that's in your gut, or even your candida that might be in your gut, which is in your gut, and it poisons them. And it also stimulates the growth of the good bacteria around there. And in the process of doing that, it decreases inflammation. So a glass and a half, maybe even two, lowers inflammation. But remember, it's still got alcohol, so it's overall it has negative benefits. The second benefit of red wine is that it is full of enzymes. Because it hasn't been cooked or baked or anything, it's still raw. So the benefit there is having it with wine, which is the traditional way of having a glass of wine with a meal. Mm-hmm. And so it acts as a digestive. It's got rich in enzymes to help break down the food. Now, the third real reason why wine is good, because there's nothing better than having a glass of wine with my best friend and my family at 5 o'clock before the meal.
Absolutely. And it's that ritual and that connection and coming together, isn't it? That's so important. And like you say, yes, alcohol is a toxin, and we shouldn't have so much of it. And, the resveratrol side of the story has been over marketed massively. Yeah. But that's really interesting to know. So it's kind of like you say, like having some digestive enzymes before a meal, or having like a shot of apple cider vinegar before a meal. You might as well just have a glass of wine. And would it have to be red wine, Peter, or would a glass of Prosecco be all right too?
Well, definitely not spirits.
Okay.
You've lost most of the benefits of in spirits and stuff like that. Although you think once you've had your first spirit, you have it. It gets better and better, healthier and healthier as you drink it. But white wine will have a little bit in it. Obviously, any wine will have some of the acetic acid in it. Okay. And there'll be definitely enough in a glass of wine to stimulate that benefit on the gut. But again, the alcohol will start to poison the gut, and it usually poisons the good bacteria first. So, and that's anyway. Going back, that's a fairly typical day. I will usually have some apple cider vinegar once or twice during the day too. And the research on apple cider vinegar, I reviewed it about a year ago. Wrote a blog on it. So there's a whole heap of information if anyone wants that free on my website. And it shows that apple cider vinegar was the preferred treatment for diabetes before diabetes medication. Oh, I should mention too, right? This is interesting, that the main diabetes drug called metformin, you know how it works? It works by stimulating the gut bacteria. Wow, the best drug in the world get this, the best drug in the world for diabetes works by, a natural process. Oh
my goodness.
You see, it was derived from an African lily. And when it was derived and they did the test and they knew it, so you can go out and instead of having metformin, by the way, which it's probably the only drug I would ever at the moment think that it's got any reasonable benefit because of what it does. But you can build up the probiotics and prebiotics in your gut microbiota, and there are many other reasons to do it anyway than just taking a drug. But I find it interesting, the best performing drug is just something that fixes the gut.
Yeah, wow.
Absolutely. It's just redoing what nature does even better. So I suppose that's how it tells you my philosophy on medication, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, rather. In a nutshell, yes, it does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So before you had your rewiring, were you eating like a standard Australian diet? I know we sort of like mocked margarine and the dairy industry and that sort of thing at the beginning of the interview, but is that what you were eating before your students helped you?
No. I mean, I've always had a healthy pension. I try to keep up with stuff, and there are some of the stuff like margarine just didn't ring true.
Okay.
As soon as I got into doing a bit of research, as soon as I looked at margarine and the omega-6 oils, I'm going, this is crazy, this is stupid. How could any so-called health organisation promote it? It's scary, in fact. To me, it scares me that this product isn't just not bad, not good for you. It's bad for you. It's linked with the development of cancers, breast cancer, prostate. It's linked with a whole raft of these omega-6 processed oils. So that scares me. So, I suppose that's what started me asking my students about it. But I've always eaten, as a young adult, I ate better than most of my friends, and I suppose I'm very physically active in my day too. I'll always go out for a walk. I'll do a good hour walk or something around the place. I walk into Fremantle, have a cup of tea, walk out just for the sake of it.
You like cups of tea, don't you?
I do. And the research on tea, and coffee is very good.
Yay!
Again, what I do, I've got all the mums out there listening going, yay, coffee.
We can keep our wine and we can keep our chocolate and our coffee, you beauty.
See, I do bear some good news occasionally.
Yeah, that's
but the stuff on coffee and tea is don't have it late in the afternoon. It's better in the morning because it still has caffeine. So in a cup of coffee, for example, you might have 40 milligrams of caffeine in it. That's enough. If you have it at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're still going to have half of that in when you go to bed at 10 o'clock.
Right.
Coffee's got what's called a half-life. So you want to allow plenty of time. I tell people, if you're going to have coffee, enjoy it, up to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, maybe midday, but not after. It will affect the sleep patterns.
And I guess, there's a difference, isn't there, between enjoying something like we've talked about, having the ritual with your loved ones of the glass of wine, enjoying your 2 squares. I do the same with my dark chocolate every night with a lovely cup of organic Earl Grey. Like we've got a few things in common here. But there's something about enjoying those things. And I drink coffee, but I drink 1 coffee a day. It's an organic brand, and I love it. It's delicious. But I think there's a difference between having these things in your life and enjoying them as a part of living, and it's a beautiful ritual, as opposed to having them as a crutch and drinking 10 cups of coffee a day just to get you through the day, and down a bottle of wine every night because you've got a miserable life, and eating a whole bar of Cadbury's. There's a difference, isn't there, when you say yes to those things. Yeah.
People often talk about balance. I really don't think there's any such thing of balance in modern day lives. It just doesn't exist. The balance we've got now is very different to the balance we had 50 years ago and 100 years ago and so on. The message is, though, look, and same with moderation. We moderate ourselves to death. The message is find out what is good for you, by your program, my program, the people who don't have a vested interest out there, and and then just adopt what they do, adapt it into your lifestyle. So, the research, again, remember, I don't have a vested interest in coffee here, or even red wine for that matter. But, oh, by the way, if anyone wants to send me a box of red wine, please, I'm happy with that, or some coffee.
Me too.
But at the I'm trying to get some sponsorship here. You say, no, at the end of this, the research on coffee is really clear. And it's a bit when I'm reading it, because I would say to people, I would have normally said, have a cup or two of coffee a day. No sugar, bit of milk's okay, no sugar. But the research actually shows that you can have up to 3 or 4, believe it or not, even 5 cups of coffee. So the information is there from the studies to show it helps with reversing or preventing diabetes type 2, cardiovascular, some cancers, some other chronic health conditions. And it's probably because the coffee bean itself is the bean, and you're getting a lot of the antioxidants as well as a little bit of the microfiber in the drink and so on. So there's lots of little benefits you can get from it. Now, you add too much milk and you add sugar in that, and you're going to lose the benefit. But the research is pretty clear on coffee and tea and all those. So hence why I don't like the taste of coffee, so I don't drink it. But, I'll drink my tea up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then, rest of the day, probably have a glass of water later on or something. So kind of that's the drinks, and my glass of wine at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whenever it is when the family comes over.
What a great day. What a great day. And so in the food that you're eating, you've talked a lot about raw veggies, lots of green veggies and slow cooked down meat that's being cooked in the broth, and organ meats as well. And are you, I was just sort of assuming that you have a big focus on getting lots of good fats into your diet as well?
Yeah. Well, look, fats are really important. And again, I try to dispel in lots of my books and messages, and even the ones I wrote 15 years ago, I'm saying don't go on a low-fat diet. In fact, for weight loss, the worst thing you can do is go on a low-fat diet, calorie counting. Oh, here's a study that came up today. You like this one? Low-fat milk increases your risk of Parkinson's disease over normal fat milk. Now, do you like that study? Why? Because your nervous system is made out of fat.
Yeah.
And, it's the insulin, not the insulin, the sheet, the covering of it, the insulating sheet around it is all made out of fat. Everything in the body, see, in your body, your structural components, a lot of them are fat. So your cell membrane, for example, your nervous system, a lot of the structural components are fat. So we've always needed fat. This is a crazy thing in this low fat, promoted by the government and promoted by heart foundations. No, it's good fats. And a little bit of animal fat is not a problem. Now here I'm saying a little bit. So if you have a little bit, in the cooked in broth, fine, don't whack on all the butter. But if you don't have that stuff, a little bit of butter's okay. Because we also know that the animal fats in the gut alter the microbiome in a negative way. They encourage what's called the Firmicutes bacteria, the negative fat-loving ones, which then, by the way, turn on the genes for weight gain and do other things around the body. So what we want to do is get a balance. So it's a little bit of the animal fats, not a problem. Never, ever, ever go low fat. Because as soon as you start altering the structure of your foods, taking things out and putting things low, high, all this stuff, you are ending up with a bastardized product. It is literally a cocktail of junk food now. And what scares me is we see all these people and they're drinking chocolate milk, low-fat chocolate milk. And I cringe. This is the stuff that is killing our kids, that are making everyone sick. These are the type of foods that get 4 or 5 stars on the government food star rating system. And I cringe. So you've asked me, why do I do this? Because I hate seeing people suffer, whether it's an individual who I'm talking with, or it's the people, the population. And all these people are getting information from dietitians who are telling them, eat the food pyramid, go on a low-fat diet, use the better Coke, the Diet Coke or the Diet Pepsi or the diet drinks. No, all of those things are causing sickness. Exercise heavily. No, All of those things are proven to cause illness. All of them. And they're all proven to help put on weight. And so I see these people out there and I cringe and I go, oh no, come on. Mm-hmm. The critical rule of all of the things I talk about in terms of eating and so on is nutrient-dense foods as close as nature as you can. And nutrient-dense foods, these are your fruits, nuts, beans. Some of the paleo people don't like my nut. I talk about nuts and beans, but I'm a scientist and I look at the research and it says beans work.
Tell me more about the beans, because I have written down beans ? I wanted to, and I've heard a bit of research actually from Sarah Ballantyne lately, where she's saying that it's the fiber in the beans that our gut needs to feed on. Is that why you like beans, or what's your scientific take on legumes?
Okay, before I get it, I probably want to tell you that the reason I'm healthier now is probably because as a kid I ate baked beans. I remember getting home hungry and I would eat beans. Okay, so beans are, my friends didn't like it necessarily, but my beans are the mainstay. By the way, my standard joke on that one is that's what beans are superfoods, and we know it because that's why we're called human beings.
Oh, right.
People remember now. The problem with beans and grains and seeds in general, all of those foods, your nuts, is that they are seeds. And they're meant to stay dry somewhere. And then when the rains come, they're in the ground. When the rains come and they start to germinate. Mm-hmm. Now, to stay in that dormant situation, in a state of suspended animation, they've got certain chemicals that are literally stopping. So they've got some anti-enzymes. They've got some chemicals, some phytates and other chemicals that are stopping them germinating. Because you don't want to germinate if there's no water. It's no good germinating in the middle of summer. Over here in Perth when it's really dry. You want to wait till the rains come. So what you want to do, and this is why everyone tells you to soak them, because these anti-enzymes that are in the nuts and the seeds and the beans need to be broken down so it can start to germinate, and in the process of germinate, change the whole biochemistry of it to make it much more available and bioavailable. Mm-hmm. So when you soak your beans, and you would know, if you're cooking chickpeas, you soak them overnight. You don't go out. Now on a quite a serious note, if you don't soak them, you will end up being a lot more flatulent.
Yeah.
And that's because your gut bacteria are altering and trying to break them down. They're trying and struggling, and they're breaking them down, but they're struggling. And anyone with gut issues, and I reckon that's about 90%
all of us.
99% of Australians. And you do, folks. I'm looking at you here, and I know you look healthy. I know all your people are great, but I haven't come across a person without a gut issue. And what scares me is the kids. I see these serious gut issues that used to occur in the 60 and 70-year-olds are now occurring in the 14 and 15-year-olds. I haven't heard that story since today, another one. And I'm on the email trying to help some people, and we've got to. So coming back to it, you soak them all. You soak the nuts. Now, if you've got a healthy gut, having some raw nuts, you're out in the supermarket, buy some nuts and eat them. That's not an issue. But if you're going to eat nuts regularly, which I tell people to, soak them. And it doesn't matter which ones, soak them. The same with your seeds, the same with any of those things you need to soak. And that way you get rid of these anti-enzymes. It becomes much more digestible to you. You get more of them. Some people say, these chemicals take away the minerals. Well, that's rubbish because, they do. But these foods are so rich in minerals anyway. They're not taking minerals out of your bones. They're taking a little bit of the minerals from the almond that you can't digest. And that's okay. You're still getting a almond. 10 times more calcium than milk, and almonds 100 times more what else? Magnesium than milk and almonds. So what's the choice? Mine is almonds. Soak them, put them in your smoothies, make some some nut smoothie that again I've demonstrated multiple times on my video tubes and on my Facebook tubes and things. So soak them. Soak all of them, and soak them the longer the better. There are some rules. I don't know them all. I just put them in the night before or whenever I can. And if I don't, then I don't worry about it. But I will try to soak when I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great advice. And your thoughts on grains?
Look, I tend to stay away from grains. I travel a lot with my talk, so I've just come back from Victoria where I flew over, did a talk in Torquay on the Great Ocean Road, and then flew back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty hard, while you're traveling. So, but I consider myself extremely healthy. I don't have any gut issues. I don't have any complaints. I feel fit and healthy at 60 years of age, better than I probably did at 25. And so having grains for me isn't an issue. I don't overindulge, though. I'll eat it on the way when I've come home. So today I haven't consumed any grains. I probably won't today or tomorrow, and I may have a wrap or a sandwich even, if I'm out somewhere. But I try to stay away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to lose weight, my message there is very, very clear. Your grains, particularly your white ones, but all of your grains pretty well, act pretty well like sugar. So you want to put on weight, they're a great way to put on weight.
Mm.
Have your breads, have those. Now, a lot of people say, but what about breakfast? Well, I believe they're called, I will write a book also one day called Cereal Killers. And the cereals we have for breakfast are the biggest cause of obesity and weight gain in Australian adults. So get rid of the cereals. So what do you have? Well, if you have to have a cereal, and people plead with me. They plead with me,
Really?
And they say, well, what can I have? Can I have my oats? I say, look, have your oats, but soak them and have your oats. Okay, because there is good research on oats being beneficial, but have your oats with some soaked nuts and some ground up seed so that you see, the grains themselves are pretty nutrient poor. They don't compare to the nuts and the veggies and things like that. So mix them in, put a bit of fruit on top to improve that digestion as well, to make digestion a lot better, and do that. Or, as I do, if I'm out, for example, on the weekend, I'd have a big bowl of fruit salad with some crushed grains and nuts on top whenever I could and things like that, and maybe some oats on top mixed in with it. But it's about improving the digestive process. And so my message is generally stay away from grains, reduce your exposure. If you've got gut issues, and you probably do, then keep them away. They cause, no matter, even if you don't have celiac disease or a gluten intolerance, the research is tending to suggest that it's still causing inflammation in the gut. And inflammation in the gut is what causes chronic illness throughout the body. And so one of the first things I do is tell people, fix the gut, lower the inflammation in the gut, and then fix the inflammation by eating healthier anti-inflammatory foods.
That's really interesting because, like you say, the majority of the population, and I think the majority of this audience who are around 40 something, I reckon we've been the worst generation hit in terms of the foods that we've eaten. I remember seeing the low fat message at age 14 and didn't eat fat for 25 years and had the low fat milks and the healthy whole grain, inverted commas, diet, the excessive exercising, obviously the extra sugar because you needed something to run on, and the adrenal burnout, the contraceptive pill, the antibiotics for the acne that you had, all of this cocktail of, but you were sticking to the CSIRO diet, to lose your baby.
Yeah, and the government recommendations and the dietitian's recommendations and all of these things, and thinking you were doing the right thing.
Thinking we were doing the right thing, and I wasn't eating at McDonald's or any places like that.
Yeah.
I was drinking the Pepsi Max because a dietitian told me that was a good way to boost.
It's better than sugar.
Yes, exactly.
I'll tell you something. This is a great study that they did. It's a couple of studies, and it was on diet. The aspartame, that they put in these no calorie, low calorie drinks and so on, and they did a study on humans first of all, and they found out that of the humans who had these diet drinks and so on, it increased the risk of diabetes about 300% that of consuming sugar in your drink.
How?
So your risk of diabetes type 2 dramatically increased over sugar, so worse than sugar, by about 300%, 3 times the amount. Now, then what they did was this group worked in with another group, and they got a group of mice. So your humans you can't control very well, and you've got to make estimates. So they thought they'd do an experiment with mice. And then with the mice, what they did was gave them these, one group got sugar, one group got better food, and one group got these diet drinks or diet foods and things like that. The diet food drink group all put on weight and developed the condition of diabetes type 2. So all of them had unrestricted food, and the diet drink put on more weight, a lot more weight. But here is the clincher in this. They then got the overweight diet drinking mice, and they got their poo, and they gave it to the other mice. You see, mice do something called coprophilia. They actually eat the poo of other animals and themselves and so on, which is really good because they circulate the bacteria and so on, okay? People are going, oh, yuck, you go, no, it's really good for mice anyway.
Yeah.
And so they got the mouse poo from the diabetic mice who'd been giving these diet drinks and diet foods, and they gave it to the normal healthy mice. And guess what happened to them? They developed diabetes type 2 and obesity. It's showing that these diet drinks, low calorie diet drinks, are actually poisoning the gut bacteria enough to set off these whole metabolic process of gaining weight. So for the last 50 years, you've been lied to. Now, you said, your generation or the generation of the 40-year-olds is worse off. No, it's not. It's not. I was lucky. They weren't around when I was a kid, and I still got a lot of crap in messages and things. Your generation or the 40-year-old generation is really bad. But what really worries me is the generation coming through now. And the scary thing is the governments aren't doing anything. That's why, again, going back, what drives me, when I see kids consuming these, one can of soft drink, diet or not, for a kid is equivalent to me drinking 1.5 liters.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Put it in perspective. Mums, dads, I want to treat them. I'm sorry, I don't treat my grandkids to death either. I don't. I love them. And the things they get fish oils, and they think that's a treat at our house. It's wacko house, isn't it? Huh? Cod liver oil, supplement they like. Probiotics, white powder. No, it's not heroin. It's bloody probiotic. They actually think it's a treat. And then the smoothies and granddad's spinach pie. These are the treats that the kids love.
Awesome.
And what we should be like. And they'll say, can I have the sweets at the supermarket when we go? And very, very rarely will we. But on that rare occasion, majority of the time, sorry, granddaughter, come home, we've got the fruit to eat.
Okay, so that's the alternative that you give, because it's fair enough saying, no, you can't have that. But is there an alternative that you would give your grandkids other than a soft drink? What would you say?
Oh, look, absolutely. And look, it's open to your imagination. There are so many things. Of course, the problem with coming home from school is that the kids are hungry. So when our grandkids come over, and that's, that's 7 days of the week.
Oh.
We get our grandkids here, yeah. And their treats are the smoothies. And we make them a bit sweeter. We put in a little bit of banana in there, so it's a little bit sweeter than the ones I'd have in the morning. But we'll do the smoothies with them. And what do you want in the smoothies? Oh, can I put a rock melon in? I really like rock melon. But we put the seeds and everything in too, by the way. So everything goes into the rock melon. We don't throw out the bits and pieces. With the pears and the apples and the oranges, the whole go in with the seeds, which by the way, are 10 times more nutritious. And so we will make that for them. So when they come here, and we'll get one of them in about half an hour's time or some time. And when they show up, there'll be a smoothie or there'll be some delicious food. Then some fruit or awesome fruit. And so they're no longer hungry, and they don't go, I want a lolly. I want to, we've got to satisfy them with food.
Yes.
And we've got to have that food ready. When kids are hungry, they're hungry. And I wrote a book called The Deal for Happier, Healthier, Smarter Kids a long time ago. And the same thing applies. When kids are hungry, they will eat anything. And if they're really hungry, they will eat the foods that they don't even like. And of course, all you do is educate them a little bit. Our granddaughter believes that broccoli helps keeps her ears beautiful. And if you don't have broccoli,
I haven't heard that before.
No, I know we had to do a lie on that one, but she loves that story.
I like that one a lot. But it's true, I think bringing hunger to the table makes everything taste better. And I think that a lot of families struggle because dinner is like the only nutrient dense meal of the day, really, when you have a look at breakfast cereals, lunch boxes, and then then it starts all of this confrontation around dinner time because the kids aren't eating their meal, but that's because they've just smashed a whole packet of rice crackers and had lollies, and they're not hungry. Kelsey Prees.
I mean, I remember as a kid coming home from school, and I'd have the beans sometimes, but other times I'd literally have three bowls of Wheaties and Weet-Bix. Okay, 3 bowls, because I was pretty active as a kid. I still am now, very active. I was active as a kid. I think it was called hyperactivity. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't have
You've got a lot of energy.
Ritalin in those days, because I wouldn't be where I am now had they given me those drugs back then.
Oh,
Now, I would have 3 bowls. Come dinner time at 6 o'clock, I was full. Because my eating habits don't conform to the Industrial Revolution, which says you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A kid, a teenager, a 6-year-old, doesn't matter, when they come home from school, they're hungry. The food and the healthy food has to be available then. If you can't have your dinner then, I'm sorry, that's up to you as a parent. But they need their dinner then, and then a snack at 6 o'clock.
Great.
So we've got it right. We're conformed to our business and our work society, and that doesn't fit the digestive needs and the metabolic needs of kids. And you'll find they'll have that meal and then they'll be right for the next hour. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a serious, grumpy kid, and there's nothing worse than that.
Oh no! And trying to get them to the dinner table at meal time, and you don't want to do it, and it's just, and then it just ruins everyone's evening, doesn't it? So that's great advice, to have the kids' dinner when they get back from school, when they're absolutely ravenous, when they're relieved to be home, and that's what a great way to be met off this bus. Then with
here is the add-on. Here is the add-on to that one, isn't in that we are hungry at that time too. That's why we head for the chocolate bars at 4 o'clock in the cupboard, at, the drawer at home. Yeah. And so I'll just get through to dinner. And by the time we get to dinner, you're either eating some crap or you're starving. So you're better off having your meal earlier than later. And in fact, there's overwhelming research showing the later you have your meal, the sicker you are and the more overweight you are.
Wow.
So have your meal earlier and then have a snack a little later, maybe 6 or 7 o'clock if you have to. But have your meal earlier. We should be having afternoon tea as tea or dinner.
Yeah.
At, say 4 o'clock or 3. Kids will tell you when they're hungry, and it's 3 o'clock. It's not waiting around for 6 or 7 o'clock for the parents. No. And as a result, they end up overeating. They eat the wrong foods and a whole raft of other things. So some simple strategies can make a really big difference.
Those are really great takeaways. No, I love those. So I'm just keeping an eye on the time, but I just wanted to ask.
I've got another 99 hours to go.
I'll have to hook up again another time. So as I was saying about the 40-odd-year-old generation, and you're absolutely right. Yes, we've been smashed with the low-fat message, but yes, our kids are in definitely a much worse place. But for those women who are listening, who are relating to lots of things that we've talked about, and just like me, like face palming and oh my goodness, can't believe it, of the things that you're telling us. Can we reverse the bad that we've done?
Yeah. Yep. Look, the fantastic thing is we can. There's been research throughout the research history, the last 50, 60 years showing you can reverse them. But one of my mentors years ago, I got a guy called Professor Dean Ornish, Berkeley University, California, and he did some work showing, first of all, that you can unblock the arteries. So you go to a cardiologist and you're lead blocked, you're going to have to cut your arteries out, and we'll do something, a $20,000 severe operation. And Dean Ornish showed you can actually reverse it. Now, since then, there have been multiple studies, even including one with 10,000 people, where 500 went on the Dean Ornish program, and all of them unblocked their arteries. So we can reverse it. Now, again, unfortunately, the cardiologists don't read the specialists out there specialize so much, they don't read the real research. And I do. Now, what was interesting is Dean Ornish did that in the late 90s. In the early 2000s, he did the same diet program, which is what I talk about. In fact, I think mine's much better than what Dean did, but, a lot more nutrition and a lot more other things in there, lowering stress.
Yeah.
And he was able to show that it reversed prostate cancer.
Wow.
Since then, we've been able to show you can reverse diabetes type 2. Now, if you go to a clinician, someone who, part-time works for the drug company, they'll tell you that, look, oh, no, you can't reverse diabetes. You can't do anything. You've got to stay on these drugs. In 10 years' time, we'll have to cut your toes off. Recent scenario, then we'll cut your foot off and then your leg off. Don't worry about it. That's just a condition, and that's a bit inconvenient. Yeah. Well, you know what? You can reverse diabetes type 2, and it takes a couple of weeks. You can unblock your arteries and it starts straight away. You can do these things. And the good thing is, it's not about doing one thing and then that one. The Dean Ornish program and the program we teach is the same. It's the same program, that you're going on. It's the same process, and it reverses all these. But even more importantly, it prevents them occurring.
Yes.
And what astounds me is how short-sighted humans are. Okay, how short-sighted. So if I take off my glasses, I'm short-sighted. I can't see anything anymore. And so I go, oh, it doesn't matter what I do today. I'm still going to get cancer. I'm still going to have a heart attack. No, I put my glasses on and say, no, I'm not. No, I don't have to. We can dramatically reduce our risk of a heart attack by about 95%. Now, heart attack is the biggest killer.
Yeah.
Okay, cardiovascular disease is the biggest killer, 95%. Now, on top of that, you can reduce your risk of cancers by about, the estimates are about 50 to 70, but I think it's probably closer to about 70 to 90%. So we can reduce them. So you have an option. Everybody there listening now, and all your friends around you have an option. If you think you're locked into your genetics, you're not. If you think that you're going to get cancer, then guess what? You probably will. Oh, I'll drink this. I'll eat that crap. I'll do all these things. I won't go out in the sun. I'll slather all that ingredient on all over my, all over me and so on. And I'll drink fluoridated water and all those things. And that's fine. No problems. Well, let me tell you, when you get to that stage, I see hundreds of people a year who have said, oh, thousands. I wish I had heard your message 20 years ago. Unfortunately, they did. They did. But they didn't want to listen because they didn't have the diabetes and were heading in for an operation, or they hadn't had the heart attack, or they didn't have their breasts removed, or they didn't have whatever it is. So the reality is we can prevent it, and for the vast majority of these conditions, we can reverse it. Professor George Jelinek, originally from Western Australia, then now over in Victoria, had multiple sclerosis. He got worse. He went on the medication, got worse, went on more medication, got worse. He then did the research, which is what I do every day, and he said, oh, I can reverse this. He now runs a ward in Alfred Hospital in Victoria because he went downhill with the drugs and with the doctor's advice, and now he's gone uphill with nutrition. And his book,
fantastic,
called Reversing Multiple Sclerosis, is scathing of the pharmaceutical companies, scathing of the doctors telling you go have that and you can't do anything about it. Multiple sclerosis is easy to reverse. About 95% of them. The same with these other conditions, as long as we know how. But it's all the same process. It's this nutritional density in the foods. It's the lifestyle. It's it's to stop the rushing around and the craziness, that mental agitation, the negative processing that we constantly do, the toxins on our skin. I haven't even talked about, but I mentioned one study. I can cite thousands of studies of the toxins that we put in our mouth and on our skin and on your hair, not that I have any, that literally cause these problems. And people go, oh yeah, and don't worry about it. And 10 years, 20 years' time, they come and say, Pete, what can I do now? How do I do it?
Yeah.
Don't wait, please. My message is don't wait, act now. And do it a little bit at a time. Implement it slowly into your life, and over a year you'll have this great life where you're empowered and doing something about your health, and more importantly about your family's health, because despite what you tell your kids, they will learn not from what you tell them but from what you do.
Absolutely.
So do what you need to do to look after your health, and that's the best message you'll ever give your kids.
That's absolutely right. I love it. Be the change you want to see. That's absolutely right.
Yep.
And it can be a painful awakening, like you said, Pete, where, yes, you've had the cancer or you've had the diabetes or the major health crisis that makes you go, okay, I'm ready to listen to Dr. Dingle's advice now and do something. But it doesn't have to be, does it? You could just, like you say, make those slight tweaks around your food, your lifestyle, mindset, and how you move your body and manage stress and all that kind of thing. And life can be a lot more delicious and inspiring and bloody awesome. So why wait?
Look, what you're getting at is really important. There are two aspects there. The first is that when you start on this path towards healthiness, you end up getting your energy back. You end up rebalancing. For ladies out there, you rebalance your hormones. So all of a sudden you're not heading towards a hormone condition and thyroid drugs later in life. You're already rebalancing them because nature knows how to heal. Nature knows how to keep you healthy. So you get your energy, you can do the things you want to do, and you can do more of them and better because of that nutrients. If you're feeling tired, then you've got an issue. Now remember, this is about a lifestyle as well. But the second thing, which I suppose I find absurd, is that I'm classified as a health nut. I don't mind being a health nut because you know what's normal? Normal is sick and dying. Normally sick and having no energy. Normally sick and having flatulence and burping and gut bloating and being overweight. That is normal.
It's
I don't want
common,
to
but
be
it's not normal, is it?
I want to be a health nut because, at least I know if something happens to me, then I'm in charge. It's my fault, not anybody else's. And I've taken responsibility. That's what this is about. Take responsibility.
Yeah, owning it, absolutely. Now, you said so many amazing things today, and you've talked about some of the courses that you run as well. So if people are listening to this and they want to connect with you and work with you, how can they get started?
Well, look, the best couple of ways is obviously on Facebook. I do regular stuff on Facebook. I'm putting up video. I put up a video blog this morning on the smoothie. I told you I cheated on my life, prepped it, but only your group knows that. Don't share it. Most of the time I do it, but so I put those up just to show. I show people how to make a nutsly and a seedsly, which is just a muesli made out of nuts and or seeds and things. So I'm putting that up, and increasingly I'm going to just be doing some of the other talks to add on. About the pharmaceutical industry, about the drugs that people are taking that don't work and the drugs that do work, as well as the nutrients that we need to get well. So Facebook is a great interaction for me. I'm easy to track down. It's just Dr. Peter, Dr. Peter, one word, then Dingle. And the other one is through my website, which is just Dr. Dingle, drdingle.com. And as a result, you can get there. I put up blogs, go on to my newsletter. It's free. I put up blogs all the time. And then I put them on, some of them on my Facebook or not. And it's a great resource for people to just have a look down. And again, most of them are referenced, not all, because sometimes I've taken it out. But at the end of the day, they're great resources. And then for those professionals out there, I'm also on LinkedIn. You can track me down, and I put even less up there. So it's really Facebook and my website that are the most, and helping get this information out. So we run courses. We've got some courses coming up. One on weight loss, just a night presentation, and one on probiotics the week before. I think it's the 11th and the 18th of July in North Perth. So if you're in Perth, a great location, easy to get to, and I think we charge $18 for the night.
Very doable.
So well, we keep it accessible, and then after that, I'm literally doing an Australia-wide tour. That will be, once we confirm that within a week, that the list of those places and locations will be up on my website. And the main area where they're going there is Queensland. We'll be doing about 20 or 30 talks over on the East Coast again before we come back and run some other talks back here.
Awesome. So definitely head to Dr. Dingle's website page and Facebook as well to connect and hopefully get some inspiration. Before our listeners go, I just wanted to tell everyone about the Primal Alternative community. If you want to hang out with other health nuts like myself and Pete, who value clean food, doable exercise, sleep, getting out in nature, and avoiding poisons, then definitely check us out at the Facebook group, Primal Alternative Community. Dr. Dingle is a member. I don't think he even knows he's in there, but I plonked him in there, so he's in there. We have daily. I'll
visit it now that I know I'm in there.
You have actually already commented in there already, so it's legit. We have daily themes in the group. So, for example, today is Top Tip Tuesday, and my top tip was borrowed from Dr. Dingle about one of the best ways to reduce toxins, which we haven't even talked about much today at all, but to reduce toxins in the home is to open up the windows and doors and let the fresh air in. So that was my top tip today. Dr. Dingle, thank you so much for just being this amazing ball of passion and inspiration and ideas and energy. I'm so grateful for you being on the Primal Alternative podcast today.
Helen, absolutely my pleasure. And I just love getting this message out. So anytime, we'll have another chat later if you want.
Sounds great. Thank you.
See you guys.